So you join us back on with the Opel Manta restoration project. Currently got Kev up here starting to put the engine back together. So as we've already mentioned, this has had a complete rebuild. Now, you do have to slightly modify this splash pan in the sump on the C20XE when you're putting them into a Manta, because you are changing the oil pickup pipe for a Manta 1800 pickup pipe as opposed to the standard XE one. And the reason for that is the difference in length and depth of the tubes, because we are going with a Manta big wing 1800 sump on there as well, so the pickup pipe needs to suit and match that sump, and this one doesn't fit. So we've trimmed out the splash pan there to allow room for the hump in the sump, and also the pickup pipe to clear that as well, because it is a slightly different shape. So we're just going to start to we're just bolting this pickup pipe in now, and then we're going to start to bolt the sump on, flip this back around, and then start to chuck all the components back on this engine. Right, so we are just about to start getting ready for dropping the engine into this car. So we was going to put the new seal in the end of the gearbox before we installed this into the car, but unfortunately the seal we've got is too small, so we are going to have to order another seal for that, but it's easily accessible from underneath the car anyway when this is in, so we can do that at a later date. So we've got the engine here now, all ready to go. We've got it all timed up, alternator in place, new belt on there, looking really nice, and that's ready for dropping in the car. So we're going to get some straps on here, strap this engine up, rotate it, and then we're going to bring the engine crane around here and start to position it into the car. Where it should be. Front looks nice, doesn't it? All the bits on. Opel looks nice now, it's on the right way around. I don't think that's tight enough. I think we need to drop that, I'll put another hoop, wrap it around a few times, but I think that needs to be closer to there. I don't think we'll get it up high enough to clear that front panel. Should do. Yeah. That's those lower things there. And bits for the engine in. Put my car that easy if I can. Okay. So if I can. Yeah. So put it on. Right, swing it ding ding. You have front panel? Oh. Get it back here. This is where it's interesting. You need to do some of that. Roll it down with this roller. We'll do the lowering. How far have we got on the wheels? Well enough. Okay. You do the lowering, you do the guiding. Okay. We'll have to tick it. Yeah. Right back. You need something on that cross member to stop it getting knackered. Oh, need a foot nail, don't we? It's already in there. Inside it. Let's see. You're going to tip that back end like right down. Ready?
Yeah.
So, put in a little bit. Ready?
Yeah. Yeah.
You still got it there?
Yeah. Right, again now. Right between the two. Yeah. Yeah. You go down a bit. What's yours like on that
On the
side?
front panel right now, so this can't physically go in.
Okay.
So we'll have to swing it.
Right, we're down. Through. Yeah. Hold on. Yeah, arm up. If you like.
Well,
I think the back's just touching your brake pipe.
oh,
Yeah, hook.
inside the box off for a note now.
Yeah. Don't fit. Boom. Spanner. It's okay. It's wire there, that master cylinder. Have to redo that pipe there.
It's well.
Yeah. Deep down. Oh, up, yeah, up there. And that's going to be tight on there. We're going to have to put a banjo on that probably. We'll have to set the band off the manta. You know, so it goes down.
Yeah. We kept that, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
So the engine went in drama free, went in very easily, very straightforward that. So we've put the bonnet on just to check for clearance because the power cap on top of the engine looked like it was sat quite high. So we had concerns that the bonnet wouldn't fit, but it actually fits really well. And as you can see in there, there's a good gap over the top of that power cap. Plenty of clearance there. Between the power cap and the bonnet. So happy with that. Let's lift the bonnet up now, you can have a look.
So obviously the bonnet isn't fastened on yet. We've just placed this on to check for fitment. So what we was worried about was the height of the power cap there. If you look at it compared to the height of the engine, we thought there's no chance that the bonnet is going to fit with that. But the shape of the bonnet and the gaps that are in there actually allows for plenty of clearance for that to go in. So we've placed the rocker cover on, and also the inlet manifold and the power cap. I think you'll all agree that is looking very, very nice indeed. Right, so with that clearance checked and all good, plenty of room there to play with, we're now going to start to mock up the exhaust manifold, and we've got a few bits and bobs that we need to put on here now. We've refurbed the starter motor. When I say refurb, we've painted it. The starter motor was pretty new anyway, to be fair. We've just tidied it up because obviously when you're doing something like this and everything's nice and shiny and clean, we can't start putting old grubby stuff on. So everything we're now fitting to this car has to be new or sort of repainted. So we've repainted the starter motor, we've cleaned up all the alternator and all these other little bits and bobs. So Kevin has just removed this old dipstick tube and breather tube from there. As you can see, that is a little bit grubby and nasty. So again, we can't leave stuff like that on a car that's getting a full nut and bolt restoration, and we have got a nice shiny one to go on. So this is now going to be bolted on to there. We've got a new gasket under there as well. And where's the exhaust manifold, Kevin?
It's here. Lovely
So
rear-wheel drive manta one.
we've just pulled this out of our parts department. A nice, brand new rear-wheel drive manifold from a C20XE to suit the Manta. So we're going to try this on, and hopefully it should come out at the right angle. Pretty sure it should. We're going to mock it up now. We're going to just throw it on quickly and see what sort of angle we get as the downpipe sort of comes under the car. We're just going to make sure it's not kicking off to one side or it's not pointing too low or hitting the floor pan. So we're just going to move along now and get this chucked on. Let's see where it sits.
Ready?
Go.
Try not to smash anything.
Don't scratch it. Big pieces of metal and fresh paint. What could go wrong?
I'll definitely lose a finger. Aha. And then, like that.
That looks pretty good, doesn't it?
And if we have a, quickly spin a nut on.
I'll just stick the phone underneath the car. Let's see where that is pointing to. That is absolutely perfect. Absolutely spot on. Nice and level with the chassis rail. Doesn't sort of drop down much lower than the chassis rail. It's nice and level with the sump. And that's tucked up really nice. That gives plenty of clearance from the ground, so don't have to worry about getting battered on speed bumps and stuff like that. So yeah, couldn't ask for a much better fit than that. Perfecto. So one other thing to note, if you're doing an XE conversion into a Manta, is the position of the exhaust manifold relevant to where normally there is a brake bias valve bolted on here, and which drops down there and just sort of sits alongside the chassis rail. As you can see, there's not a lot of room there now between the exhaust manifold and the chassis rail to where that bias valve would normally sit. So as you can imagine, this gets absolutely red hot, and with your bias valve sitting there, it basically boils your brake fluid to your back brakes, and you end up with little to no braking effort. So one thing to note is either move that or remove that. We're not entirely sure whether we're going to be running a bias valve at this point. I'm not thinking we are. We have got the bigger master cylinder, the Monza 3 litre master cylinder over there. Obviously we've got some big massive 4-pot Brembos going on the front, and I think we're possibly going with some Cosworth calipers on the back.
Yeah.
So we'll have to sort of suck it and see with that, because what we don't want to happen is when we brake heavily, we don't want it to put too much pressure to those back brakes and lock the back end up, because obviously the back end is going to be a lot lighter than the front end, and as the car takes a dip, when you slam the brakes on, it's going to pull all that weight off those back wheels and potentially lock the back end up, which is not what you want. So we'll probably run it with no bias valve for now, and then we will see where we get to. We can always fit sort of an aftermarket adjustable bias or whatever, but we'll run it as it is. We'll hard pipe it to the back brakes, and we'll have to give it a run around and see how it feels, and that's something that we can modify going forward. So we'll keep you updated on that one. Right, so happy that exhaust fits well enough, so we're just going to pop this back off because we have got a few things that we need to fit before we do the final fit on this exhaust manifold. Kevin's having a bit of a wrestle now trying to get it back out of the hole. There we go. And mind that fresh paint. Oof. So yeah, as we're saying, we've just got to bolt this on. There's a couple of brackets that need to go on down here as well. A few other little bits and bobs. We need to make a gasket for the crank sensor, which fits in there, and obviously fit the crank sensor as well. So there's a couple of things we've got to do, and also we've got to fit the gearbox mount because the exhaust covers that gearbox mount as well. Again, as we've already explained, it is tied up just on a piece of rope at the minute, but we have now painted that gearbox mount and got some new rubber bobbins for that as well. So once that is on and all these bits and bobs are on, we can then put this exhaust manifold back on permanently. But before we do that, and the next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to torque these cylinder head bolts down. This is a fully rebuilt engine, and if you'd have watched one of the previous episodes, we placed the head on and we just sort of nipped the bolts up, but we couldn't torque them because it was on an engine stand. As you can imagine, there is quite a lot of pressure going on these bolts, and the engine's trying to move all over the place, so you never get an accurate torque reading if that's moving around on an engine stand on wheels. So now it's bolted in the car, it's nice and solid. We're going to get these head bolts torqued up. Right, so the first setting here is 18 foot-pound, or pounds-feet, or 25 newton meters. So we're going for the foot-pound on this particular torque wrench. We've set that to 18 foot-pound, and we're going to go around in a spiral. We do have the sequence, which is, you start with number 9, number 5, then 1, 3, 7, 10, 6, 2, 4, then 8. So you're basically working around from the centre outwards into a spiral, or you can sort of crisscross these. Is similar, gives you a similar effect. Basically, you're starting from the middle and you're spreading the load outwards. Once we've done them all up to 18 foot-pound, it is then on the degrees, and it's 3 stages of 65 degrees. So we'll get these all nipped up now to the 18 foot-pound, then we'll get our angle gauge out and start to do the second and third stages.
The noise. There we go.
So all of them?
Yep.
Right, so now we need our angle gauge, which is on the bar behind you. And then we knock these up to 65 degrees. Right, so start.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Get them on now, zero it out. You are?
That's right, yeah.
Zero that out. Pull this on.
Right, get a close up of this while you.
Oh, I can't really do that, can't I, while I'm holding this.
Right, so I'm going to 60.
So that's 60, so you're going between those two gaps. Yeah, 60.
Where?
Well, that's 60.
Can't see it, keep moving, you keep putting your hand in front of it. That's 60, 70. Oh, right, okay. Here we go.
Okay.
Yep.
So head is all now torqued down. We've got the rocker cover on there. However, this will have to come back off at some point because you're supposed to warm these engines up and then do another torque procedure on the head, which we will be doing once obviously we've got everything plumbed in and piped up. There's a new rocker cover gasket on there as well. Kev is currently just mocking up the heater motor. Now this is a Polo heater motor, it's not a standard Manta one. Now the reason we are fitting this, and we have done this before on another car, is because the original Manta heater box sort of comes right out here, and it doesn't allow enough room for the dizzy and the leads to come out the back of the engine without contacting the heater box. So using a Polo heater box actually gives you far more room. Kev's just going to start mocking this up now. We're going to put the dizzy on, and then we'll line this heater box up to where it's going, and then we'll show you what sort of room it gives us for the dizzy and the leads. So that is a good modification to make if you are looking at putting a C20X engine in a Manta and you're struggling with the room from the heater box relevant to the dizzy, is to use one of these Polo heaters. Now just move around here. As you'll see, we've now treated the whole inside of the car with some stone chip, and on top of this we are going to be using some dead mat sound deadening. So we are going to be lining the whole floor all the way up into the bulkhead, and I've explained previously we are actually going to be doing the inside of the bulkhead as well, because originally the Mantas do have some sound padding, some sound deadening on the outside of the bulkhead inside the engine bay. However, it's very difficult to get off without breaking it because they glue it to the bulkhead, and over the years it gets very brittle and it just falls to bits when you're taking it off. So it gives it a nicer look in the engine bay, it gives it a nice clean look, leaving it without the padding on inside the engine bay. So to substitute for that, we are going to be sound deadening all the way up inside here, just to give it a little bit of protection in there and just to quieten things down a little bit. They are quite tinny, these cars, once all the sound deadening is out. So we're going to be doing the whole floor pan, all up underneath the back seats. We're going to be doing inside the rear quarters. We're also going to be doing up inside the roof area, all the way through into the boot floor. All this is going to be sound deadened. It's actually come out pretty well inside there as well. You'll note there we have got quite some holes in the parcel shelf as well, and we are going to be using them. That's going to be coming in a later episode. We are going to be filling those with speakers, so we are going to be building this into a bit of a sound car as well. So there's going to be some nice sound system going in there, so we will be utilising those holes. We did strengthen this back panel as well. We put some bars underneath here because it was all quite weak because of the strength that's been took out of that, so we have put some strength back in as well. So we're just going to mock these dizzy up and this heater motor now, and then we'll be back in a minute. So the heater box is just placed in loose here, it's not actually fastened in yet. This is literally just a mock up, and we will not be using this dizzy because that's a bit manky. It's just for mocking up purposes only, because we're actually using this one. This is the nice clean dizzy that we will be using. So again, this is just for mock up purposes, so we don't want to damage this one while we're messing about trying to get this heater box in. So as you can see there, it is still quite tight there for the pipe to go over, but there is enough clearance just to get a pipe on there. And then the other pipe is actually down here, which comes underneath the dizzy. Both of these pipes will come out and go around, and then down this side the engine will be piped in and plumbed in for the heater matrix. But as I was saying, with that standard Manta heater box, there is absolutely no chance whatsoever that you was going to get all that in there when the standard heater box comes flush with the scuttle panel. So there's just no room there at all. So this is probably the next best option. There is like electric motors and stuff out there, but this is just a simple conversion, the simplest way we found, so that is what we're going with. So there we go, that is now mocked up, and we can start to just trim this up a little bit, just make it fit a little bit nicer against the bulkhead, and then we can look at how we're going to mount this to the bulkhead. Get a couple of screws in there, and we'll also be bonding this in as well so it's sealed. So the next things to do on this car realistically now will be to start plumbing the water pipes in here, because they are very difficult to get to once the inlet manifold's on. We've also got the idle control valve to go in there. We can start putting the wiring loom in and wiring up the starter motor and the alternator while we've got good access to that. Once we've done that, we'll be going back to our heater box, getting this all bonded in, and obviously fitting the correct, or the dizzy that we are going to be using, and getting rid of this dirty, nasty one. When we got this car, it had some sort of a short shift gear lever on it, and it just didn't feel nice. It feels really notchy, almost makes it feel like a gated box. So
we're going back to a standard one. So this is what was on it. It looks pretty good, but it just doesn't have a nice feel to it on the gear change. The gears are quite stiff to get, so it actually slows your gear change down, I would say, rather than speeding it up. It's just not something that we're going to be using. Maybe this is just a faulty one, I'm not sure, but it just didn't feel nice in the car when we got it. So we're going to be doing away with that, and we're going back to standard gear lever. Maybe cut the stick down a little bit, just to give it a little bit of a shorter feel. But that is the original now, all treated, painted, so that will be going back onto the gearbox as well. So we've removed the master cylinder to take it off to our local brake supplier, because we actually need a banjo bolt, a banjo fitting, sorry, to go in the side of the Monza master cylinder that we're going to be using on this car, because it is quite close to the inlet manifold here. So we've had to take a little bit of the inlet manifold off and add one of these knobbles on there basically. So we've ground that off just to give us a little bit more clearance. And then we'll have a banjo fitting basically that points downwards rather than the brake pipe trying to come in sideways. We can have it coming in from underneath just to give us that bit of clearance that we need there as well. So we was going to start to refurb this fuel tank and clean it out and give it some paint, getting it ready to go back in the car. But we always check inside of these, because we are noticing now, obviously with the age of these cars, that these fuel tanks are going bad. Once they've been sat for quite some time with not a lot of fuel in, they tend to go really, really nasty inside. I don't know if you can see this, guys. I'll try and get my torch in there for you as well. But you can see in there, look at the state of that. That is absolutely mullered in there. Let's see if we can get a brighter torch in.
Yeah.
Just about, yeah. No, that's it. You can see in there, guys. Look at the state of that in there. So, yeah, I don't think, unfortunately, that tank is going to be savable. And it certainly is not going on this car. So we do have some more fuel tanks in stock. We've got about 10 of these. Hopefully one of those 10 will be in far better shape than that, because that is definitely not going back on that car. So there's only one place for that. In the bin. So I'll take you under the car, show you a couple of little bits that we've got done underneath there. So things are looking really, really nice under here now. We've still got some bits like this, these shocker bolts that need tightening up. We've just put these in loose. Same again on this side. We've got our panhard rod, which comes from this mount here and comes across and bolts into there. So we've got this to do. That is all painted, the panhard rod, and it is polybush, so it literally just needs to be bolted on. We've got our rear brake conversion that we need to figure out as well. All our brake pipes and fuel lines was running on a previous episode. We've just got a rag over the top of the gearbox here at the minute, just as we was painting the inside, just so none of that paint come down and got on top of our gearbox. So we've got our gearbox mount now in as well, all nice new shiny bolts in there, and we've actually got an uprated set of rubbers on there as well, because the old ones over time just perish. You generally get a bit of oil leaking out your box, gets in the rubber, makes the rubber dead soft, and then it all splits and falls apart. You can no longer get the original OEM rubber mount for these, so this is the solution for that, and it's actually a better mount. It's more solid than the original. The original ones you can wobble the box around and it's just not very solid at all. There's certain little bits again under here that need doing. The ball joints need tightening, uppers and lowers. We couldn't do this off the car because we need to get some weight under here, because the ball joint just spins when you're trying to tighten it up. We've got the trap rod ends that need tightening, but all the new springs are in, all the new rubber mounts are in. We've got all our new zinc plated bolts all in this cross member as well. All our nicely strengthened arms all bolted on. I've got the big discs there on the front as well, and then we've got the big 4-pot Brembo calipers ready to go on with our custom main mounts, ready to go on our modified spindles as well. But I think you'll agree, it's looking really, really nice under here now. Considering what it was when it came in, that is some transformation. Looks absolutely fantastic under this car. Very well protected. Hopefully should last for many years to come. And then we've got the steel torque tube there on this back axle as well. Normally these are aluminium and they are prone for braking when you get a little bit of power. So with us putting this 2-litre redtop engine in here, it's just always good to have that steel torque tube just to take a little bit more power and obviously we've got the ZF limited slip diff in there as well. We still need to fill the axle and the gearbox with oil, so that will be again on a later episode. We've got all these bolts that need tightening up. This is just placed in loose at the moment. We will be coming under here and going over this. Our prop shaft is ready for shot blasting, and that will get painted, and that can go on the car as well. So going places pretty quickly. This car's turning around pretty fast now. Should be making some really good progress on this in the next couple of episodes. So that pretty much brings you up to date with where we're at with this car. It's coming along really well. And that's unfortunately all we've got time for on this episode. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Give us a like, give us a share, drop us some comments, let us know what you think of this build so far. And we'll see you all on the next video.